Like every day at Wonderbolt Academy, the Wonderbolts had just finished their practice for an upcoming show in Manhattan within the next 2 weeks, and Spitfire had given every pony some time off from practice for these couple of days, so they can get some rest. Even though that they wanted to, some of them, like Misty Fly, want to practice some more, but Spitfire told her not to do it because overdoing her training could jeopardize her health, as she put it. And even Misty Fly didn't want to make Spitfire upset, so she didn't decide to do it. But even after, when only 2 days later, when Misty Fly were at the restaurant with Rainbow and Soren for some lunch, Soren had mentioned to Misty Fly a bit earlier that he and Rainbow have been dating for the past few months. And even the other of the Wonderbolts had been dating some pony, except Misty Fly. Even Misty Fly at first didn't consider to have doing anything to do about dating. She said that she didn't need a boyfriend or a girlfriend to be with, because all she wants to do is practice, and perform. That is most of her life. But Rainbow said that she needs to be with some pony to, sometimes if she had time off, maybe that she could spend time with that particular pony. Because not all the time that she'd not be able to spend time with her friends from the Wonderbolts. Like when Spitfire has been dating Lightning Strike and Rainbow with Soren. And that not always that it cannot be considered to be expecting that to be there for her at all the time. Because since all of them have started dating, people wanted to make sure that Misty Fly had her own special song pony to be with. Because Soren even mentioned that he and Rainbow are going to leave the Wonderbolts for only a short time, because they are going to use the vacation. The vacation will take place after the performance in Manhattan. Even though that Misty Fly asked where it was going, and Soren said that they're going to Saudi Arabia for about a week. And of course, Misty Fly wished them luck. Even after Rainbow and Soren had left the restaurant, only Misty Fly remained. But after realizing that they had a point, that even when she can spend some time with her friends, she felt lonely. But when she felt lonely, she always practiced, doing some practice either at the academy or by herself. But doing so as the routine has always started feeling overrated. She started feeling that she didn't have to be with. Because only a short time before this performance was going to happen, Spitfire had announced that Lucky Strike and her are going to have a baby soon. And that meant that she would soon have to be taking a maternity leave from the Wonderbolts. And knowing that one of her oldest friends has a baby on the way, and they all had someone to be with. Knowing that she getting older, and even she had told herself that one day she wanted to have a family of her own. Ever since all the time when she had been asked to be put on a blind date or try speed dating, she always had put that to her side or wasn't even not interested. So now she decided maybe it was time to try something like that. So the next day, Misty Fly went to see Spitfire and Lightning Strike if they have some advice what to do, and both were a little bit surprised that she had decided to try to be dating somebody. So Lightning Strike said, maybe try to ask some other friends out, maybe a stallion if you know of some pony. But she said that she didn't know many stallions in town, or at least in Cloudsdale. Someone that she knew were probably already been dating or already married. And she were once a point in love with a stallion. She even admitted that to him, but he said that he didn't like her back the same way, only wanted to prefer to be friends. That was the reason why they didn't want to start dating anybody else. That surprised them both. But Spitfire then said, why don't try speed dating? At least it's something that many ponies do, and some ponies actually find their, at least their special zone pony. Even knowing that Spitfire was so confident that she might find something. So, but since there weren't any speed dating in Cloudsdale, the closest they had was actually in Ponyville. And since that is a small town, she maybe thought consider to go there to try. And since she had been there at least a couple of times before and had noticed at least a number of handsome stallions, and maybe one of them could have been available for speed dating. So she said that she will try it. So the next day afterwards, she went to Ponyville. After that, she went to see Rainbow for a couple of hours. Even Rainbow was a little bit surprised about her idea to be starting speed dating. So, but she didn't know where this location to be with, so she asked Rainbow, and turns out she knew about it. She hasn't been there, but only know what is whole place. So she told her. When she went there the same evening, she were a bit nervous how this thing was going to take place, or how it would turn out. She will have strong hopes of being maybe find one or perhaps even two stallions that might be interested in her. At first, the first few stallions when she started dating, this speed dating weren't much her type. She preferred to be with some pony who is strong, honest, at least funny at most. But some of the ponies weren't her much of a type. There were at least one past stallion, but when they started talking, he didn't seem to be that kind of funny type. At least he was more into exercise, almost on most exercise and sport training, and it turns out to be bulk biceps. And even Misty Fly felt devastated that now the stallions didn't seem to be working. But she told herself that she would try to give it a second time. So the next day afterwards, she gave it a second try. Even there, she found a few stallions to talk to. But when she ended up at the last one before the speed dating ended, he seemed to be very special, but in some way unique. And his name was Charger. When they start talking about their common interest, and it turns out both of them had so much in common. They liked this training, practice, and even had a lot of sense of humor. And even after speeding us over around 5 p.m., Charger had asked if she wanted to maybe go somewhere to have something to eat, since he was getting hungry. So they went to this small diner in town to have some hamburgers and the fries, and so there they started talking a bit more. But it turns out when she asked him what he was doing for a living, he was actually like herself, but not a Wonderbolt. He was Shadowbolt, one of the rivals to her, the Wonderbolts, apparently. She didn't even recognize him without his uniform. But when he found out she was one of Wonderbolts, she expected that he would start screaming at her, or at least saying some bad words or something, telling some bad rumors about them, or in the worst case, just leaving without paying the note or the bill. But he didn't. Nothing of that. All he did was just smile and said, "You know, I don't even care if you're Wonderbolt or non-Wonderbolt, since most of my spare time what I do is actually practice myself. And honestly, I have been considered maybe one day to retire from the Shadow Balls and perhaps do something else in my life. And she asked, like, what? And he told her that he had also a few interesting things. Once, that he was like to prefer to do things like carpeting. He was actually quite decent good at it. He even worked a part-time work as the carpenter in Ponyville. Turns out he even lived in Ponyville. But when she asked him if he would retire, or if he would even consider to do that, if he'd like to be a shadow bolt, even though he liked the performance and the stunts they do, but at some point he wants to maybe to do something else in his life. At some time he only worked as a carpenter in Ponyville for a part-time job. Since the Shadow Balls was his main work, living. But he decided maybe it was time to retire because he had been part of the Shadow Balls for the past almost 15 years. And he was in his early 30s. And he wanted to start to work on something else in his life. More comment. But he had even told the others about this. And she was pretty surprised. And he asked her if she would have retired from the Wonder Balls early, what would she like to do? And since she told him about Firestrike, that a former Wonderbolt who became a teacher at the academy, so she thought maybe either could she be an instructor, flying instructor, or perhaps even a teacher at the Wonderbolt Academy like her friend Firestrike. Since both of them were good paid jobs, and she would still do something that she like to do, so both of them continued to talk more about almost their other things. And then, before they left, Charger asked her if she would like to go out with him again sometime, and she said yes. And of course, it went a few days before when they couldn't see each other. When she told him that within a few days she would leave for Manhattan, but she could be back in Ponyville within the next couple of days afterwards, and he agreed. So after the performance in Manhattan, even during that particular time, Misty Fly was still thinking about Charger, but she hadn't even told any opponent, especially her team, about him. Especially since the Wonderbolts and the Shadowbolts are rivals in this phase. She was afraid that they would start hitting her or maybe kick her out of the Wonderbolts because she is dating a Shadowbolt. Since they are rivals, they don't hate each other, the teams, but they are constant compete to be the best aerobatic teams ever. So she didn't prefer telling anybody about them, not even her family or her close friends, especially her team. But at some point, only a few days after, about 2 days after the Wonderbolts the performance was over, but before Rainbow and Soren was about to leave, they saw a photo in Misty Fly's locker of Charger. And even Rainbow asked, "Why do you have a picture of him in your locker?" Then she had only two options, telling the truth or maybe tell a lie. She said, I have the picture in my locker as he's my, main focus as a rival. I want to be better than him, she said. And even both Rainbow and Soren believed it. And soon the others also. She had no idea how they would react if she told the truth, though. And later on, and only after the others went on to their vacation, Misty Fly went to Ponyville. And of course, when she met Charger, he was excited to see her, and they even gave each other a hug. And they tried to keep their relationship as a secret as much as possible, because they have no idea how the public would react if a Wonderbolt dating a Shadowbolt. They have no idea how even Charger had even told his team about this, because he was afraid that they would kick him out even before he could retire. And they kept much to keep this secret most as possible. In public, they act as just friends, just talking, or maybe as rivals. Just they only talked most about their rivalry. They act as they were rivals. They even competing, like who could eat first or finish the food, or who could be faster than Flyer, who was the strongest. But when they went to his home, or when they went to some place where they could be his secret, then they start acting as a couple. And this all worked out for next 4 months, until by a stroke of accident, when both Charger and Misty Fly were just talking in the forest nearby town, and they were cuddling when they didn't notice Rainbow was flying above them. She looked down and she was terrified, seeing Misty Fly cuddling with a shadowbolt. She could not believe it, but she didn't stop in order to find out to confront her. So she went all the way back home. Later, the same next day, when Mr. Fly went back to the academy, the others were waiting in the locker room, and they were just talking to each other when suddenly, when she walked in, the room was silent. They looked at her, and she asked if something was wrong, but then Spitfire walked up to her and said, "Mr. Fly, is there something you need to tell us?" But Mr. Fly had no idea what she talked about. It could have been about something else, or basically anything. "What do you mean?" she asked. "Is it true you are dating a shadow?" asked surprise, more surprised silent tone. And then Missy Fly realized it was no word to try to even make up a lie. And she said yes. But before the others could say anything, she explained why and how that even happened. After that, she had started trying this speed dating after Spitfire and Soren told her about it. And on the second day, when she when she ran into him, she had no idea that he was Charger of the Shadow Balls, but only after when he formed him. And she told her friends that if you want to kick me out of the Wonder Balls, that's fine. If you want to do that, I don't care. And if this came out to the public, I don't want to ruin my famous popularity. But before she could finish, Soren cut her off. "Look, we're not mad at you. We know that they are our rivals. I mean, we don't even hate you about this. And after all, we was the one who told you to start trying to date dating. And we couldn't even expect that you would run into him of more places. And that you stopped dating him after this 4 months? Yeah. So has he told his team about this? No. Maybe that he should try to do it, because then Soren showed a newspaper a picture of Soren of Misty Fly and Charger together in the park, cuddling. And it was a newspaper not only being closed. He said, "This photo has been published in almost any newspaper across the country, even in Pornville," said Rainbow. That made Misty Fly's face being pale. She had no idea what to react. But she told them the truth, though. So after that, she immediately left the Wonderbolt Academy and went straight to Pornville to find Charger. And every pony just looked at her, and they realized what is the truth. But she didn't care. All she wanted was to find him. She went to his home, but he wasn't there. So she went to all the places that she knew that she could find him, but nowhere. She asked around if they had seen him, but no one had seen him, in at least about a day. but at least one has seen him recently, and that was Big Mac. He said he's seen him outside town, so she went there to see him. Charger wasn't even mad or to see her. She was just happy to see him, that he was okay. And after all their talk about that just happened, both agreed to tell her team that tell his team before they even find out. Of course, they were expecting to be that he will be kicked out of the Shadow Balls. But it turns out they weren't much against that idea either. Even they were really shocked that a Charger is stating a Wonderbolt. But when he even mentioned that one day soon he might be retired from the Shadow Balls and then start working as a carpenter in Poland, that shocked them even more. But there weren't much they could do about it though, because that was his life. But he decided to be that if they needed some extra help in performance or something, that he will be back as only a temporary based on. So that happened. So after all this, only a couple months later, things started cooling down. All the newspapers had suddenly moved on, and the public was now aware about their relationship. But everyone just happy to see that they were happy. Even when Misty Fly's family found out, they were surprised. But they didn't care if he was a Shadowbolt or Wonderbolt or any regular Pegasi. But they were just happy. But it did happen though, that the both teams were competing with each other, but all now more friendly terms, because it soon turns out the both teams have started being friends. But they still compete against each other as their rival teams, but mostly for friendly terms. But after being dating for about 4 months, for about 4 years, Charger felt ready to propose to Misty Fly, and he did that, and she said yes. She could not expect that at first. She would expect that maybe that happen maybe sometime later on, where she wasn't even ready, prepared for that. At that time, even Charger worked as a carpenter now. He had left the Shadow Balls, and Misty Fly was still a Wonderbolt, but she was not even worked as a part-time teacher at the academy, just for some case, and she liked that. After almost they had their only 2 years after their wedding, both announced they were expecting a baby soon, and they even had a daughter together. But within the next 3 years, they had a second baby, a son. And that's how Charger and Misty Fly found a true love and got a big family. The end.